promoting a healthy environment. It's the air we breathe. Clean, safe water. Responsible management of our natural resources. We protect and restore for a sustainable future. The environment matters.
So we knew there was a large problem, and we knew we had to address it.
Finding a creative solution to a complex problem. How a manufacturing challenge led to an environmentally friendly solution that ended up saving the company money. Why, when it comes to the bottom line, green is the new black. Plus,
the items find a second life in everything from grommets on their dress to buckles for shoes. Things get reused all the time, and this is just another way of highlighting that.
reduce, reuse, refashion. How some talented young designers and their creations are showing the possibilities of recycling. Hello everybody, and welcome to Environment Matters. I'm Greg Adolphson with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. It was a problem they didn't even know existed, much less how much it was costing them every year, but thanks to an innovative solution, Toyota Motor Manufacturing of West Virginia is providing a model for the rest of the company and beyond. The DEP's Sarah Alford joins us now with more.
Greg, it all started with a call from their metal recycler about what amounted to an unwanted guest. The Toyota plant in Buffalo makes engines and transmissions, lots of them. During the manufacturing process, parts, engine blocks, crank, and camshafts are precision machined to exact tolerances. The machines that bore, tap, ream, and mill those parts are cooled with a special water-based coolant, and the machining process generates tiny metal shavings called chips that are sent off-site to be recycled. The problem was that those chips also carried a tiny amount of that coolant, a waste product that the recycler had to deal with.
We went down to the recycler and was quite amazed at the amount of coolant that they were receiving with our metal chips. We went back and did the math because they had to send that water off to have it properly disposed of, that coolant off. And they were receiving almost 100,000 gallons in a one-year period. So we knew there was a large problem, and we knew we had to address it.
It was not only a messy problem, but an expensive one too.
Coolant costs us about $1 to manufacture per gallon. So every gallon that goes out the door, we've lost $1. Like I said before, it was 100,000 gallons, so we're losing $100,000 a year. On top of that, the recycler was being charged almost 50 cents a gallon to dispose of that coolant. So now we're up to $150,000 a year just because we can't control the amount of coolant that's going out our door.
But treating the problem at the source just wasn't a practical option.
So we started here in production looking at where does the coolant come from, how is it attached to the chips, and how is it getting in the box. And what we quickly found out is it comes from multiple sources. So we knew that a countermeasure at one of those sources would be inhibitorily expensive because we would have to countermeasure hundreds of individual systems. So what we decided to do was take a step back and look at the roll-off collection boxes.
And this is the clever part. The chips end up here at these containers. If you look closely, you can actually see the coolant dripping off the chips as they are dropped into the bin. The trick was finding a way to capture that excess coolant before the chips were hauled off. The solution: create a system that captures and recycles the coolant. Sounds simple enough, but it took some trial and error.
So what that entailed was actually finding a filter that wouldn't get clogged up by these metal chips. So I contacted a company in Texas. They sent me maybe a dozen filters. I spent several months drilling holes in plastic buckets, putting in pieces of filter and pouring chips on top to see what would work.
In all, 6 bins were modified at a cost of roughly $42,000 in parts and labor, but the project paid for itself in less than 5 months and earned Toyota Motor Manufacturing of West Virginia a national award for its innovation by the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable. Organizers say these Most Valuable Pollution Prevention, or MVP2 awards, demonstrate how organizations can become more competitive, form partnerships, save money, and help improve the environment, all at the same time. Greg, the coolant collection system here is already being put to use at another Toyota plant in Alabama and is being evaluated at a Toyota plant in Kentucky. Environmental engineers here in West Virginia say their process can be adapted to other similar manufacturing processes worldwide. I'm Sarah Alford for Environment Matters.
Thanks, Sarah. Toyota Motor Manufacturing of West Virginia also received an honorable mention for its innovative and energy-saving lighting plan. With nearly 2 million square feet under roof, requiring roughly 2,000 overhead fixtures, lighting the plant has a significant impact on the electric bill. About 7% of the total energy demand, or roughly $60,000 a month. The original fixtures used over 400 watts each and required several minutes to come up to full brightness, requiring them to be operated 24/7. Replacing them with fluorescent fixtures using half the energy for the same amount of light was not all that innovative in and of itself, but what really made the difference was the addition of motion detectors, a novel idea and one that took a little persuasion.
The idea that the lights would turn off on their own was not a very popular idea initially. So what we had to do was, one, to identify the right type of timer. For instance, we use 20 minutes, but you don't want our production folks to be noticing all these lights going on and off during production. So one of the things that was key for us is that we found a timer that would do, for instance, 20 minutes as our time, but every time something moves under that light, it would reset that timer. So the light would never have to turn off in order to be able to turn back on, for instance.
Adding the motion detectors cut the energy use by another 25%. Making the change wasn't cheap. Upgrading the lighting ended up costing over $400,000 on the front end, but with $250,000 in energy savings each year. The change will pay for itself in less than 2 years. Facilities managers are also experimenting with LEDs in some fixtures for additional savings. Overall annual energy savings at the plant equals the amount of electricity used by 280 average West Virginia homes. That energy saving reduces the plant's carbon footprint by roughly 3,000 tons of CO2 a year. Helping business, industry, and local governments find ways to reduce energy and improve sustainability is the mission of the E3 West Virginia program. E3 stands for Economy, Energy, and the Environment and is part of the DEP's Sustainable West Virginia program. Working with our partners, E3 audits can often make a significant impact, and not just in energy savings, as the DEP's Mike Huff found out on a recent trip to Parkersburg.
Camden Clark Medical Center in Parkersburg has been serving the medical needs of the Mid-Ohio Valley for more than a century, and as the facility looks to the future, managing its energy costs are a key part of that vision.
Utilities are a big part of our expenses, so we're looking at opportunities maybe with gas savings, natural gas savings, opportunities in electrical savings, whether it be in lighting or motors or VFDs or whatever the opportunities are out there. The engineering department runs about a $7 million a year budget, and we're always looking for ways to be more efficient.
Helping Camden Clark reach that goal is a team from the Industrial Assessment Center at West Virginia University, one of the DEP's E3 partners.
We have a lot of diagnostic equipment. These are well-trained engineers, and they can go in and actually take measurements, so there's no guesswork. And they can work out potential energy savings for energy efficiency measures that can be implemented and give kind of a rough estimate of the cost to do that. So in this case, Camden Clark can understand what the return on investment would be.
One big advantage of bringing in the team, it provides a second set of eyes and a fresh look at a facility's often complex energy efficiency equation.
I've been in assessments when we've gone in commercial buildings and maybe we'll see 10% savings. I've been in industrial facilities where maybe we see 30% savings from an annual energy cost standpoint. Today I'm not sure what we'll run into because they've done a lot of good things here. So that's a bit more of a challenge, but that's a challenge that we readily enjoy. But we'll find energy savings for sure.
But even an improvement of just a few percent represents real money. Money that can be spent on other things besides utilities.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's capital investments, whether it's in expansion, You know, in today's environment, you know, employment is important, and you have to look at employment costs. You have to look at a very, you know, a lot range of costs. And if we can deal with the energy costs and maximize that, then you know, can add other areas that maybe you've not really focused on. So I think just that idea of reducing costs and maintaining competitiveness will retain jobs. It could potentially grow and add jobs.
And helping improve that first E, the economy, in the process. In Wood County, I'm Mike Huff for Environment Matters.
E3 West Virginia is currently providing services to facilities in 7 West Virginia counties. Coming up,
green or sustainability is not one thing, and you can choose to carve your own path in trying to reduce your negative environmental impacts and ultimately leave a positive impact on your life and in the world, on the world.
sustainability on a grand scale, teaching organizations how to make greener choices. Plus,
recycling is good for our earth, and it's fun to put it in a fashion show.
strutting their stuff at this year's Refashion Show. Those stories and more when Environment Matters continues.